Thank you. It was very nice. I thought I'd timed it just perfectly with you. Could you please join me for the Spirit Music, number 346, Come Sing a Song with Me. Stand if you're willing and able. Paul?
Karen Uhlenbeck is a founder of modern geometric analysis. Her perspective has
We light this chalice, symbolic of the warmth of community and the brightness that love brings to the world. Illuminating our search for justice and peace, light, the force that nurtures all living things here in our midst, in this flame so tiny and so significant. Well, good morning again, and clearly I am not John Benarowitz. He and I switched, and we guess we didn't let Cheryl know. Welcome to the Universalist Unitarian Church of Farmington. We're happy to have you here. If you are a first-time visitor, if you are so inclined to stand up and give us your name and let us know, why you're here today or how you heard of us. Well, if there is anybody here, welcome for the first time. And if you're returning, welcome again. Thanks for coming back. I'm the president of the congregation and am happy to be part of this church. Our minister, Reverend Leonette, is out of the pulpit today, and instead we are going to hear what's always a treat from Paul Bailey, who tells the service. We do have supervised nursery for babies and toddlers, and of course religious education classes for children and youth. They're already started their class this morning. If you have any questions and you have young children, please see Natalie Case, who's our religious education coordinator, if you have any questions. Should you need to leave the service for any reason, we do stream this in a couple of other places in the church, and any of our greeters will be happy to show you where that is. Our UU principles begin with our pledge to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of all people. As we are a welcoming congregation, we welcome into our community people of all races, sexual orientations, belief systems, and ages, including any who are fidgety and create youthful or older noises. These humans represent our future, and we welcome them fully in our meeting house. Now, if we have any announcements, I know Libby has a couple for us.
Hi, I'm Libby Berger. I'm representing both RE Committee and Social Justice Committee today. For social justice, we are working with several other churches, including Birmingham UU Church, for the South Oakland Shelter week that they are hosting homeless people. That's coming up. If they need help from us for driving and for people to just stay there overnight, and I believe for some meals. There's a sign up downstairs on our bulletin board. I'll be downstairs after the service with that sign up. Also from social justice, next Sunday is an immigration service. We're having Deb Drennan, who is the CEO of Freedom House, as our speaker. And she's always an interesting person. We're also going to have a party afterwards. This will be food from Baobab as well as some potluck stuff. If you want to help with the potluck stuff, let me know. Again, I'll be downstairs. We will also be having as that a gifting for them, kind of like a baby shower, only it's things like disposable razors, paper towels, sheets, water bottles, things like that they need for people coming to our country as asylum seekers. There is a list downstairs, and I've got another copy of it here. If you would like to buy something off that list, don't worry about having too many paper towels. They'll deal with that. Anyway, you can see me downstairs on that. Now, you know it wouldn't be my announcement if we weren't talking bottle caps. So bottle caps are ready to go to Indiana to get them made into benches. George Rourke has volunteered to do that. We're still working on a date. But when we have that date, which we think will be early November, he's going to need some help. These benches are about 250 pounds, and George just hasn't been at the gym much lately, and, you know, he just can't lift 250 pounds. So he's going to need a few strong arms and backs. So please be thinking about that and talk to George. Also on RE, the kids are encouraged to wear their costumes on the 27th, which is in a couple of weeks. They will also this year be doing Trick or Treat for UNICEF. And that will be starting next week and will go for 2 weeks. So try to remember to bring some change next week and again the next week. Thank you very much. Yes, that's, oh, you mean, well, actually, Esther, that's a good lead in to one other thing that I was going to say downstairs. But there has been a person who went out and bought a whole bunch of this stuff, and then we'll be selling it as you go into the Adams Hall. And so you can have your gift and donate it to, basically. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Joan Daly. I forgot to put the announcement in the bulletin, But daytimers will be meeting at the Northville Cider Mill this Thursday at noon. And anybody who's 50 or better who would like to join us there, you'll be certainly very welcome. And you can go directly there, or if you'd prefer, we will do carpooling from here. We'll meet at 11:30, and but we'll meet at the cider mill at noon.
Hi, I'm James. Next Saturday is our monthly board game night for anybody who wants to come and attend. It's downstairs from 3 to 7 p.m. If you need childcare, just see me downstairs.
Hi, I'm Charlotte Davis. I have a couple of announcements. One thing I meant to mention this last week. Virginia is having their elections this year. If they can get a couple of constituents that now National Organization for Women is supporting, then we could get the ERA, the Equal Rights Amendment for Women, passed. That would be the 38th state that needs to be ratified. So anybody, if you can donate some money, you can look up National Organization for Women, Virginia, and find out where to donate. The other thing I wanted to mention is that Tracy Martin had another fall, and Tracy is at Beaumont. And I was visiting her last night, and it's like her thoughts and tongue aren't connecting. So, don't know what's wrong. She'll get an MRI today, and we'll know more. Okay. Royal at Beaumont, yeah. Thanks.
Hi, Paul Denowitz for the auction. For those of you who, just to jog your memory, next Sunday is the final day to submit your auction items. So many of you donate different things from, food and dinners and whatever. So next Sunday, mark that on your calendar, and we'll be putting a book together, and November 2nd is the auction. So we look forward to that. Thank you.
I have one other quick announcement, and that's also fundraising related. Just a reminder that after the service, I'll be in the Marge Brown room, and we'll take people through how to sign up and how to use the Great Lakes Script program. And please, and there's handouts, so you can take it away. Again, yeah, I know it's money, and the auction is coming up, but remember, this is something you're spending anyway, at places that you shop, and a portion of your purchase will go back to the church, if you so designate. Please get a cup of coffee and come up to the Marge Brown room after the service. Okay, if you would please join me again in singing hymn number 118, This Little Light of Mine. 118. Now please join me in the Litany of Gathering, which is on page 3 of your order of service. We have a great deal more kindness than is ever spoken. The whole human family is bathed with an element of love like a fine ether. How many persons we meet in houses whom we scarcely speak to, whom yet we honor and who honor us. Read the language of those wandering eye-beams. The heart knoweth. Now, if you have any joys or sorrows, we heard about Tracy already. If you have any other joys or sorrows of a personal nature that you'd like to share, please feel free to come forward. Now, if you'll join me in reading the offering, again on page 3 of your order of service. The generosity of our gifts of time and financial offerings sustains the work of the Universalist Unitarian Church of Farmington that seeks answers everywhere, includes everyone, and lives with compassion.
reading is from the book Journeys of Women in Science and Engineering by Karen Uhlenbeck, speaking herself in 1995. My first love is the outdoors. I enjoy mountain climbing, backpacking, hiking, canoeing, swimming, and bicycling. I am at home in nature, and when I can't be out in the wilderness, I can often be found in my garden at my home in Austin. That's the real me. My day-to-day life is something very different. I'm a mathematician. Mathematicians do exotic research, so it's hard to describe exactly what I do in lay terms. I work on partial differential equations, which were originally derived from the need to describe things like electromagnetism, but they have undergone a century of change in which they have come to be used in a much more technical fashion to look at even the shapes of space. Mathematicians look at imaginary spaces constructed by scientists examining other problems. I find that I am bored with anything I understand. My excuse is that I am too poor an expositor to want to spend time on formal matters. As a young academic, I worked by myself a lot. In fact, that was one of the attractions of mathematics for me. I am the eldest of 4 children, and I consider dealing with my siblings the hardest thing I've ever done. As my career advanced, however, I found I had a lot to learn from other people of all sorts. I have found it very rewarding to deal with younger mathematicians, and I now truly enjoy collaborative projects. I can't say that I was really interested in mathematics as a child, mostly because one doesn't really understand what mathematics is until at least halfway through college. There was never a question that I would go to college. I wanted to go to MIT or Cornell, but my parents decided that those institutions were too expensive, and the University of Michigan was affordable. I was lucky enough to get into the honors program at Michigan. I had very advanced courses as a freshman and received a superb education. I had a junior level math course that I found very exciting. I had intended to major in physics, but decided to change majors when they started taking attendance in the physics lecture. I also had trouble with labs. I could not learn to look up answers in the back of the book and fudge the experiments. I could never seem to get the labs to come out right, so I switched to math and have been interested in it ever since. I had a National Science Foundation graduate fellowship at that time, so 4 years of my graduate school were paid for at a very luxurious rate. We were told that we couldn't do math because we were women. There was blatant, overt discouragement, but also some subtle encouragement. A lot of people appreciated good students, and I was a very good student. I liked doing what I wasn't supposed to do. It was a sort of legitimate rebellion. There were no expectations because we were women, so anything we did well was considered successful. I have known that I was a good mathematician. I have a natural bent for abstraction, and I love ideas of all sorts. I value time to be by myself and think about math or other things. It doesn't matter. The noise of the world is a difficult thing for me to deal with. I have always had a hard time handling external stimuli. I ended up at the University of Illinois, Urbana, because they hired me and my husband. I hated Champaign-Urbana. I felt out of place mathematically and socially, and it was ugly and flat. I was lucky to receive a 2-year Sloan Fellowship in recognition of distinguished performance and a unique potential to make substantial contributions to the field. I moved to the University of Chicago in 1982. The same year I received a MacArthur Fellowship, known as a Genius Grant, which probably made the biggest difference in my life. When I got the fellowship, I felt obliged obliged to become more ambitious. It has been a struggle for me to come to grips with my own success. In the large classes of engineering students I teach, I'm seeing a lot more diversity: women, Hispanics, and African Americans. Engineering and science can be done not just by white Anglo men. I'd like to thank the Sunday Services Committee for allowing me to speak today. Also Diana for all her help with making music selections. She always does a great job. Karen Kaskula was born August 24, 1942 in Cleveland, Ohio. Her father was an engineer and her mother was an artist and school teacher. She was the eldest of 4 children. Many mathematicians know from an early age that mathematics will be their life, but this was not so with Karen. As a child, she was interested in books, and this led her to an interest in science. Karen writes, "As a child, I read a lot, and I read everything. I'd go to the library and then stay up all night reading. I used to read under the desk in school. I was particularly interested in reading about science. I was about 12 years old when my father began bringing home Fred Hoyle's books on astrophysics. I found them very interesting. I also remember a little paperback book called 1, 2, 3, and in Infinity by George Gamow, and I remember the excitement of understanding this very sophisticated argument that there were two different kinds of infinities." Karen entered the University of Michigan with the intention of studying physics, but a combination of studying exciting mathematics courses and finding that physics practicals were not a strong point led her to change to mathematics. She was awarded a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics in 1964. Uhlenbeck was one of a very few women studying math at that time, something that would not change for much of her career. She began her graduate studies at the Courant Institute of Mathematical Sciences at New York University, and she married biophysicist Olke C. Uhlenbeck in 1965. When her husband went to Harvard, she moved with him and restarted her studies at Brandeis University, where she earned an MS 1966 and a PhD 1968. Her doctoral dissertation was titled The Calculus of Variations and Global Analysis. After receiving her PhD from Brandeis in 1968, she taught at MIT, then moved to Berkeley, California, where she studied general relativity and the geometry of space-time. She encountered many obstacles to getting hired as a full-time faculty member. She was told that people didn't hire women, that women were supposed to go home and have babies. So the places interested in my husband, MIT, Stanford, and Princeton, were not interested in hiring me, she said. She ultimately found a position at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, and later at a number of other institutions, including the University of Chicago and the University of Texas at Austin, where she fully proved her capacities as a mathematician and as a researcher. Uhlenbeck has drawn inspiration for her work from theoretical physics, and in return she has had a major influence in shaping it by developing ideas with a wide range of different applications. For example, physicists had predicted the existence of mathematical objects called instantons, which describe the behaviors of surfaces in four-dimensional space-time. Uhlenbeck became one of the world's leading experts in this field. The classic textbook, Instantons and Four Manifolds, which she co-wrote in 1984 with Dan Freed, inspired a whole generation of mathematicians. In 1971, she became an assistant professor at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, where she felt isolated and undervalued. So 5 years later, she left for the University of Illinois at Chicago. Here, there were other female professors who offered advice and support, as well as other mathematicians who took her work more seriously. This is, to my mind, primarily due to the culture of the mathematical community, as well as harsh societal pressures from outside. Changing the culture is a momentous task. In 1983, she took up a full professorship at the University of Chicago, establishing herself as one of the preeminent mathematicians of her generation. Her interest included nonlinear partial differential equations, differential geometry, gauge theory, topological quantum field theory, and integrable systems. She was awarded honorary doctorates by the University of Illinois Champaign in 2000, the University of Ohio 2001, the University of Michigan in 2004, and by Harvard in 2007. On January 6, 2007, she received the American Mathematical Society's Leroy Steele Prize at the mathematics meeting in New Orleans, Louisiana. The award was made for her foundational contributions in analytic aspects of mathematical gauge theory in the papers Removable Singularities in Yang-Mills Fields, 1982, and Connections with Bounds on Curvature, also in 1982. Her reply to the award began, "This honor confirms what I have been suspecting for quite some time. I am becoming an old mathematician, if I am not already there. It gives me cause to look back at my research and teaching. All in all, I have found great delight and pleasure in the pursuit of mathematics. I have made great friends and worked with a number of creative and interesting people. I have been saved from boredom, dourness, and self-absorption. One cannot ask for more." This past May, Uhlenbeck became the first woman to win one of the field's most prestigious awards, the Abel Prize, which is awarded by the Norwegian Academy of Science and Letters. Uhlenbeck, who is 76 and an emeritus professor at the University of Texas at Austin, has done revolutionary work across several disciplines. Indeed, the Academy lauded her pioneering achievements in geometric partial differential equations, gauge theory, and integrable systems, and for the fundamental impact of her work on analysis, geometry, and mathematical physics. The Abel Prize is probably the most prestigious award a mathematician can ever claim, widely regarded as the Nobel Prize of Math, probably because there's no Nobel Prize for math. Uhlenbeck, a staunch supporter of women in science and math, was the first woman to have ever been awarded the distinction. In 1990 in Kyoto, Japan, she gave a lecture on applications of nonlinear analysis in topology at the International Congress of Mathematicians, the largest and most important gathering mathematicians in the world. She was only the second woman to ever do so after Emmy Noether in 1932. At the time she addressed the ICM, she was already a well-established name and one of the most prominent mathematicians in the world. In 2016, a series of lectures at the ICM celebrated the life and work of Emmy Noether, during which Uhlenbeck explored Noether's fundamental insight into the conservation law in modern theoretical physics. Noether's theorem is a foundation stone of quantum physics, one of the great intellectual achievements of the 20th century. Uhlenbeck won the Emmy Noether Lecture Award from the American Mathematical Society in 2007. It's not easy for women to achieve the recognition they deserve in a male-dominated field. Uhlenbeck said, "The issue of women has never been far from my thoughts. I remain quite disappointed at the small numbers of women doing mathematics and in leadership positions." This is, to my mind, primarily due to the culture of the mathematical community as well as harsh societal pressures from outside. Changing the culture is a momentous task. In 2000, Uhlenbeck received the U.S. National Medal of Science, yet for many, the recognition of her achievements should have been far greater, for her work has led to some of the most important advances in mathematics in the last 40 years. Uhlenbeck's mother introduced her to the Unitarian Church, but at the time, the intellectual life in academia held more of an interest. 15 years ago, she found her way to Unitarian Universalism in Austin, Texas. Though she had already had always understood the intellectual attraction of the faith. Becoming part of a community became important. I also get perspectives that are very valuable to me in living. One such perspective came after listening to a recent guest minister at UU Princeton whose sermon focused on diversity in the church. He shared a story about a woman who left the UU congregation because she felt they expected her to be the representative black person. She had wanted to go to church because it was a church. Uhlenbeck says she didn't see herself as the representative black person at all. I suddenly had this insight. I had not wanted to be the woman in mathematics. I had wanted to be a mathematician who just happened to be a woman. Uhlenbeck says some congregates only found out about her professional life because of the Abel Prize. I often sketch. Some people knew me as the person who sketched in church, but they didn't have any idea that I was a mathematician. She laughs. Uhlenbeck had just attended the weekly service at her UU congregation in Princeton on March 17th when she learned she'd made history by becoming the first woman to win the prestigious Abel Prize in mathematics. The Abel Prize is an international award for outstanding scientific work in the field of mathematics, including mathematical aspects of computer science, mathematical physics, probability, numerical analysis, scientific computing, statistics, and also applications of mathematics in the sciences. The award was presented by Norwegian King Harald V at an awards ceremony in Oslo, May 21, 2019. She also received a cash award of $700,000. In 2008, Uhlenbeck was elected an honorary member of the London Mathematical Society. They said, Karen Uhlenbeck is a distinguished mathematician of the highest international stature, specializing in differential geometry, nonlinear partial differential equations, and mathematical physics. Professor Uhlenbeck is one of the United States' most eminent mathematicians and perhaps the most distinguished woman mathematician of our time. Penny Smith, a mathematician at Lehigh University in Pennsylvania who has worked with Karen and has become her best friend, says she really is not just brilliant, but amazingly creatively brilliant. She's considered one of the pioneers of the field of geometric analysis, which is the study of shapes using what are known as partial differential equations. Curved surfaces, imagine a donut or pretzel, or even difficult to visualize higher dimensional surfaces, are generally called four manifolds, Smith said. The universe itself is a four-dimensional manifold defined by a set of partial differential equations, she added. Uhlenbeck, along with a couple other mathematicians in the 70s, developed a set of tools and methods for solving partial differential equations that describe many manifold surfaces. She also revolutionized another area of mathematical physics known as gauge theory. Sometimes when trying to study surfaces, mathematicians run into trouble. The trouble has a name, a singularity. Singularities are points in the calculations that are so horrible you can't do calculus, Smith said. Imagine an upside-down pointy hill. One side goes up and has a positive slope. The other side goes down and has a negative slope. But there's a point in the middle that neither goes up nor goes down, and it wants to have both slopes, Smith said. That's a problematic point, a singularity. It turned out that gauge theories, or a set of quantum physics equations that define how subatomic particles such as quarks should behave, had some of these singularities. Uhlenbeck showed that if you don't have too much energy and you're operating in a four-dimensional space, you can find a new set of coordinates where the singularity disappears, Smith said. She gave a beautiful proof of that. This new set of coordinates satisfy a partial differential equation that makes the gauge theory equations more tractable, she said. Other mathematicians extended this idea to other dimensions. We all used Uhlenbeck's ideas in an essential way, Smith said. The work of other prize-winning mathematicians has been rooted in techniques introduced by Uhlenbeck, says Mark Haskins, a mathematician at the University of Bath, United Kingdom, who was one of her doctoral students. These include Fields Medal winner Simon Donaldson, who applied gauge theory to the topology of four-dimensional spaces, and 2009 Abel laureate Mikhail Gromov, who studied a mathematical analog of the strings of string theory. Haskins says, Uhlenbeck has an innate sense of what should be true. As a student, he recalls sometimes being baffled by her answers to his questions. Your immediate reaction is that Karen had misheard you because she had answered a different questions, Haskins says. But maybe weeks later, you would realize that you had not asked the correct question. Uhlenbeck was one of the few women in her department. Some academics recognized her talent and encouraged her, but others did not. Fixing universities was easier than fixing the culture in which people grow up, she says. Uhlenbeck is warmly welcoming toward all sorts of creatures, beginning in more established mathematicians and stray cats alike. From the book Mathematicians, An Outer View of the Inner World by Karen Uhlenbeck. I was a lucky child growing up in the optimistic post-World War II climate. We played in the rural hills of northern New Jersey, prepared ourselves for our chance at the great world of culture, art, music, science, and intellect. A girl did not become a mathematician by doing what was expected of her in suburban New Jersey. It is perhaps only accidental that I turned out to be so good at and so in love with mathematics. I learned about mathematics in my freshman honors course at the University of Michigan. I still remember the thrill of taking limits to compute derivatives and the little boxes used in proving the Hein-Borel theorem. The structure, elegance, and beauty of mathematics struck me immediately, and I lost my heart to it. I remember in vivid detail the first theorems I understood, and even more so the theorems I proved on my own, just like in the textbook, only thought up and invented without sneaking a look at the text. From there, the step to research mathematics has been a small one. I still delight in the minute and private successful arguments, even as the large, impersonal, complicated structures built on these small ideas continue to fill me with awe. I have been privileged to be a player in one of the major developments in mathematics in the past 30 years. To explain the power and beauty of mathematics to outsiders is difficult. Mathematics takes ideas from external world and makes them abstract, juggles them around to create structure, and then spews them back with amazingly broad and useful consequences. What does it take to be a mathematician? My experience has been that the key ingredient is the fascination with the theory and the manipulation of its structure. It does not take brilliance, but love of a great game. Uhlenbeck has been a relentless advocate for women in mathematics and was a co-founder of the Women and Mathematics program at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey. She played a leading role in championing diversity and inspiring the next generation of women to become leaders in mathematics. Both Uhlenbeck and Chu Lin Trang have mentored hundreds of young women mathematicians through the program they co-founded, resulting in a powerful network of nearly 1,500 participants to date. In April, the Women and Mathematics program was recognized with the American Mathematical Society's 2019 award for a mathematics program that makes a difference. Now, the EDGE Foundation, Enhancing Diversity in Graduate Education, proudly announces an extraordinary gift from Karen Uhlenbeck. Her gift, which is part of her Abel Prize award, will be used to establish a fellowship program that will support mid-career mathematicians with a focus on those who are members of a group that is underrepresented in the field. The purpose of the Karen Edge Fellowship is to support and enhance the research programs and collaborations of mid-career mathematicians who are U.S. citizens or permanent residents and members of a minority group that is underrepresented in the field of mathematics. Fellows will be chosen by a selection committee consisting of 6 mathematicians appointed by the Edge Foundation Board. The award consists of $8,000 per year for 3 years, including funds to support 1 trip per year to the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton. The first 3 awardees will be announced by May 1st, 2020. Karen said, "I'm aware that I'm a role model for young women in mathematics. It's hard to be a role model, however, because what you really need to do is show students how imperfect people can be and still succeed. I may be a wonderful mathematician and famous because of it, but I'm also very human." Uhlenbeck hopes that her prize can inspire girls to go into maths just as Emmy Noether and others inspired her. Thank you very much.
Our final hymn is hymn number 21, "For the Beauty of the Earth."
Karen Uhlenbeck's pioneering results have had a fundamental impact on contemporary analysis, geometry, and mathematical physics, and her ideas and leadership have transformed the mathematical landscape as a whole. May it be so.